Hello, this is Dylan again after a somewhat brief hiatus. Today we're going to be reviewing the Aramaic New Covenant translation by Jahn or Jahn. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his name, but here it is. Uh, it's probably the most literal translation of the Aramaic text ever that I've seen. It's 100%. It goes 100% in line with the Western Peshitto readings, which I think we might get into that in another video. But it's a very good translation, but extremely hard to read. Let me read one little brief uh, part to you. Starting Luke 20 verse 1. You could probably compare this to any translation and see how much harder it is to read. And so be it on one of those days when he is doctrinating the people in the priestly precinct and evangelizing, the rabbi priests and the scribes of the elders are standing over him, and they are wording to him, "Word to us by whose sultanship you work these, and who gives you this sultanship?" And Yeshua answers wording to them, "I also ask you one word, and you word to me. The baptism of Yochanan, be it of the heavens or of the sons of humanity." And they are reckoning with their souls, wording, "If we word of the heavens, he words, because why trust you him not? And if we word of humanity, all the people stone us, for they are convinced that Yochanan is a prophet. And they word to him, we know not whence he is. And Yeshua words to them, neither word I to you, whose sultanship who I work these." Uh, I've never heard like three of these three of these words before. I'm not sure if I've heard of evangelizing before. Of course I've heard of evangelism, but I never heard the phrase evangelizing. I've also never heard of sultanship, which he uses for authority, and also doctrinating, which I'm very certain that he made up, which he sort of goes beyond the barrier of the English language. It's interesting in some of his, he orders the New Testament in a much more convenient way. Like he puts all the writings he puts Jude before First John, so that all the writings of John can go together. And he puts the Gospel of John before as the first Gospel, so that Luke and Acts can go together, which makes quite a bit of sense. He refers to John as the genesis of all the Gospels. This is very clearly a sacred name translation. Like instead of calling Jesus the more common Yeshua, or Yeshu as some people have used. He calls him Yeshua, which is obviously a combination of the Tetragrammaton Yah and Shua, which is one of the Hebrew words for salvation. But this has been shown to be a very inaccurate way to pronounce the name. But oh well, it's just how they are. But he doesn't only do this with Yeshua. Obviously, he also does it with John or Yochanan. Instead of Yochanan, it's Yachanan. And this is not a very easy translation to read. So if you don't like literal translations, or you have a hard enough time reading the King James, I'd recommend you don't go to this one. But it makes it a very interesting study tool. He Another feature in John is he translates the Aramaic idiom "na," which means "I am." It's according to David Boucher, 97% of the times it's used in the Peshitta Old Testament, it's used of God. And like whenever he says "I am Yahweh your God," it says "Ina na Yahweh MarYah your MarYah your Allah." That's what it would say in the Peshitta. But he uh, he translates it as I am" in capital letters. For example, in John 10 verse 7 through 9. And again, Yahshua words to them, "Amen, amen, I word to you. I am I am the porter of the flock. All who come preceding me are thieves and robbers, but the flock hears them not. I am the portal. If humanity enters in me, he lives and enters and exits and finds pasture." Uh, he also instead of it saying the good shepherd, uh, in the good shepherd speech in John 10, he says, "I am the grace shepherd," which I guess makes sense to a certain extent. But and also he does another thing I noticed was whenever he translated the Sermon on the Mount, he said the Beatitudes are. Let me read the Beatitudes story to you. Graced this Matthew 5, by the way. Uh, Graced the poor spiritual, for the sovereigndom of the heavens is their own. Grace the mourner, for they are comforted. Grace the meek, for they inherit the earth. Grace they who famish and are thirsty after justness, for they satiate. Grace the merciful, upon their being befriended. Grace to who are pure in heart, for they see God. Grace to they who work shalom, for they are called the sons of God. Grace to those persecuted because of justness, for the sovereigndom of the heavens is their own. Grace to when men reproach you and persecute you and word every evil word about you because of falsehood. Then cheer and rejoice, your reward abounds in the heavens, for thus they persecuted the prophets from before you. He uses a lot of Jewish terminology. I'm guessing he's a Messianic Jew. Like, he translates the Aramaic Namusa or law as Torah, which is most of you should be familiar with. And one thing I don't like about it was the fact that he doesn't translate. He uses the Tetragrammaton Yahweh, and it's as you have said before in previous videos, the Tetragrammaton does appear in the Peshitta New Testament. He is called he translates it as Yah Veh instead of MarYah or Yahweh or Jehovah or Lord in capital letters. But Yahweh is all, but MarYah, this Aramaic word, is also applied to Jesus in several places. But none of these places does he translate MarYah as Lord whenever it's referred to Christ. But like the this is, like I said, a sacred name translation, but it's so literal I don't really see how he could have had any translative bias. So, but it's a very, very interesting translation, very good, and I highly recommend you get it. If you like literal translations, I think you'll love it, even if it's a lot harder to read than your NASB or Young's literal translation. But here it is, the Aramaic New Covenant by Herb, Jahn or John, whatever it is. I hope you enjoyed the video. God bless you.